Hey, hey, welcome back to another episode of Unraveling with Jamie and July. I'm Jamie.
And I'm July.
And before we hop into today's episode, we would just like to let you guys know that if you are enjoying being here with us so far, or if this is your first time tuning in, we also have a bi-weekly newsletter called This Life. You can find the link to subscribe in the show notes. This is a wonderful place to access healing resources, our offerings, and upcoming episodes. We also dive into personal reflections, offer tips and guidance on some of the topics we discuss here on the show. So if you would like more, come grow with us by subscribing to our newsletter. Once again, the link is in the show notes, making it easy for you to sign up. Thank you so much. And now, on to today's episode. What are we talking about today, July?
Well, today we're going to be sharing a bit of our healing journeys, our own personal stories from the early days of our individual experiences.
What? Who decided that?
You did, dear.
I'm just kidding.
The ups, the downs, and everything in between. We want you to know that you're not alone and that the messy, uncertain beginning is all part of the process. So we're going to share a little bit of ours.
Woo!
Woohoo! Yeah.
Let's do it.
So here we go. So first, let's just dip into a little about the world of healing. You know, we have seen a massive shift in recent years of more and more people seeking alternative solutions. Things have shifted so much that both doctors and wellness practitioners are exploring multiple modalities for healing the energy body, which is so cool. We seem to be leaning further into the healing traditions of many of our ancestors when healing was accomplished by moving energy. So, yay for that. And the World Health Organization has estimated that 80% of the world's population relies solely or largely on traditional remedies for healthcare, which is such an astounding number when you think about it. And there is speculation that more than 2 billion people may be heavily reliant on medicinal plants.
Wow.
It is becoming more and more prominently recognized that we are more than the physical body, and our overall health and wellness benefit much more from deep exploration and a quantum approach rather than the, in quotes, pharmaceutical band-aid approach that had been center stage for a bit of time in our history. Notice I say a bit of time because it really is such a little snapshot in our history that we have looked for these band-aid approaches to our health. And to add to all of that, the world of personal growth and self-development has been skyrocketing in recent years, with so many people taking charge of their holistic wellness and seeking the help they need. So wherever you are at in your healing journey, you are certainly not alone. And so now we'll kind of talk about our healing journey, just to emphasize how not alone you are, especially if you're in the beginning, because the beginning days are definitely, they can be challenging and you can feel quite a bit, I guess, disoriented is the word I would use. Off kilter, off balance, out of sorts, searching.
There's so many words.
Yeah.
But I don't want to scare anyone. No, I'm just kidding.
It can feel that way.
Turbulent.
And everyone's journey is different.
Of course.
You know, for some people, my mentor told me right from the start that some people can accomplish in just, a second what it takes another person, 10 years to accomplish. And so you just don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's so dependent on what you're dealing with too, right?
It absolutely is. Yeah. It absolutely is. So we'll start out with some questions. So the first question we're going to address is, what was life like before we started our healing journey? So do you want to answer that first, Jamie?
Sure. What was life? I'm like, where to begin? What was life like before you started your healing journey? it was very mundane, I want to say, for lack of a better word. I feel like I was just kind of like just stuck, not really moving forward in life, not really doing anything. Like just well, basically just trying to survive. Like just living,
Yep.
working, trying to survive, and I wasn't happy. Um I feel like I just felt tired all the time and down and just not really excited about anything, not really excited about life,
Hmm.
just kind of numb and just going through the motions, really.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's like going through the
Yeah, just kind
motions.
of
Yeah.
a bit of a zombie and yeah, just miserable, not happy.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I did have happiness in my life. I was very blessed in that way because, I have children and they brought me a great deal of happiness. I loved being their mom and the precious time that I spent with them. But that really was the highlight of my
Mhm.
days. My days were plagued with anxiety that affected my children, unfortunately. um, just this intense anxiety that prevented me from really moving forward and doing the things that I wanted to do, needed to do. I I definitely I struggled to sleep. Like sleep was I was exhausted all the time. And it wasn't just struggling to sleep because I had babies and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like I literally just didn't sleep for the first few decades of my life. It was pretty bad. And let's see. Um, Definitely in survival mode. There was a great deal of going through the motions,
Mhm.
the day to day, feeling, things were very mundane. And, I would have bursts of like inspiration, but then, that sort of lack and scarcity would come. It's not for me, or it's just too much. I'm too tired. And the anxiety would prevent me from doing much of anything. And, yeah, and then things got really, really bad. They got really bad, which I think we'll hit on that, like what
Mhm.
drove us to the healing,
Mhm.
because when you're in survival mode, it's not all bad all the
Mhm.
time. But unfortunately, as these layers mount over you, the weight just gets heavier and heavier, and
Mhm.
then the struggle becomes more and more severe.
Mhm.
So, and that's what I was dealing with. I didn't know at the time, but I was dealing with like high functioning depression.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't call my anxiety high functioning. um,
Yeah.
but certainly the
Yeah.
depression was. I had no idea that I was depressed,
Mhm.
and I don't think anybody around me really did because nobody said anything.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, but back then we also didn't talk about those
Yeah.
things, because I do have some years on you, and we did not talk about those
Mhm.
things. So,
Well, we didn't really talk about them either,
yeah,
but yeah.
there wasn't mental health awareness.
Yeah.
There wasn't conversations
Yeah.
about healing and healing trauma, healing generational trauma. None of that was a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So, yeah. So the next question is was there a specific moment or experience that pushed you to begin the conscious healing journey? And so yeah, so there it was. It was right in the next question. um um yeah, so you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I feel like there wasn't a specific experience that pushed me to begin, nor was there like a specific significant moment, if that makes sense. It was just like getting to this point. Um, I think I was just, well, I shouldn't say that actually. I was reflecting on this the other day. Um, there was kind of like a long period of time where like a significant moment happened and then a few years later that significant moment led to, I'll explain what I'm talking about. So in answering that first question of what life was kind of like, it's like that's what life was like. It was like I was on this cycle of just like, every once in a while I'd do some things and feel a little bit better and then fall,
You're on a hamster wheel.
yeah, fall 3 steps back,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, all that kind of thing. Um, I'd try to stop drinking. I'd stop drinking for a while and then something would happen and I'd start drinking again and just repeating this pattern over and over. Um, and then I think kind of what was like the significant experience in my life was really when my dad passed away. Um, and obviously I didn't know that at the time, but like I think with that, it was like before my dad passed, I felt like I was kind of in some small little ways, like I was starting to kind of move forward and like get, you know, get some traction, I guess, on making some changes in my life. And I hadn't been drinking again, and like I was, trying to plan a future with my partner and like doing different things that I felt was kind of like a little bit of forward motion. And then my dad passed, and it was interesting how that affected me because like I didn't I didn't feel like I had a super close relationship with my dad, but like the grief hit so significantly and I just kind of went down this downward spiral like I and it was slow but also fast, if that makes any kind of sense, where it was kind of like, you know I I was I went back to work. I was, trying to move forward. I was dealing with the grief. I was actually, feeling my emotions, which that was a huge thing for me. Like I was crying a lot and, allowing myself to feel all the things. Um, but then I kind of I think I just kind of like woke up one day 2 years later and realized that I had not gone anywhere and I had started drinking again, and that I was just kind of stuck in grief on top of just everything else. I was stuck physically in the community I grew up in and I didn't want to be there. And, so it was just like, I feel like my specific moment that led me to begin was just kind of like, I don't know, I just woke up one day and was like standing in my like living room area, and I remember the moment like so clearly because I
Mm.
just like I'm pretty sure pretty sure it was like mid-morning and it was a weekend. I know this because we weren't working. Me and my partner weren't working. And I walked over to the fridge and I grabbed a drink. Like I grabbed a beer and it was like mid-morning, and I remember walking over the counter, cracking it open, and then it was like kind of like everything just stopped and moved in slow mode around me. Like I remember looking at my hand holding the drink, looking at the drink, and then I just kind of like looked around the room. I looked over at my partner who was like already sitting playing video games, and it was just like I had this like out of body experience almost in a way where I was just looking around and I was like, this sucks. Like I hate all of this. I'm so miserable.
Mhm.
I'm so unhappy and I can't keep doing this. And so it was like that, and that moment could have been 20 seconds or it could have been 2 hours. Like I don't even know. Like
Mhm.
that's kind of how that moment was. And I remember just like in my mind just making this like declaration of like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm changing. I
Mhm.
can't do this anymore.
Mm.
And I never drank that drink. I don't remember what I did with it after that moment. Like I must have poured it out. I don't but I know I didn't drink it. And I feel like that decision right there was like the first decision of
Mhm.
because I remember being like, I don't know how, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm not doing this anymore.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that was kind of I feel like it was like my dad's passing was kind of like the put the dominoes in motion
Mhm.
for getting to that point of like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting how you do remember, like so often the moment,
Mhm.
For me, it was something that it built up. It was just like you. It was a building to a moment. There had been a series of events that had happened over the course of a couple years, I would say. Well, I mean, it had been there was a series of events that had been happening my whole life,
Mhm.
but there was this specific little chunk of time, where my brother had come to visit, and stay with us to do some healing of his own, and a lot came up during that time. And then I s- I had started a business venture with a friend, and I was renovating a house for this business, to reside in. And the renovation process was exhausting, and I had spent quite a great deal of time, like late nights alone, doing this. And so there was time for reflection, and I was exhausted. I was in this state. I was in majorly in survival state, very much so. Had codependency issues, that were extreme, and a people pleaser. Oh my goodness, the people pleasing was just, it was off the charts. I would bend over backwards to try to please others, and then completely ignore my own needs, my own emotions, and my need for just rest. I was wearing myself very thin, and I had huge fear of abandonment, fear of confrontation. So I wasn't voicing anything that was bothering me or that I needed in any really true effective way. It's not to say that I never tried. I certainly did, but I wasn't effective in it. And I was regularly letting people, just take advantage and take my time and exhaust me. But I allowed it. And in all honesty, I welcomed it because it was a great distraction from what was really going on inside of me.
Mhm.
Then I didn't have to think about all the pain and all of the years through childhood, and where all this pain resided, and just keep going, just keep going. And I mean, that was sort of a mantra I would say to myself regularly: is stay strong, keep going, stay strong, keep going. That's how you get through life. You just stay strong and you keep going. And of course, what happens when you do that and you're in survival mode?
Mhm.
You hit burnout.
Mhm.
You hit this wall of burnout and you collapse. Now, I didn't know what burnout was. I just knew that one morning I woke up and I was supposed to go to work at this absolutely beautiful, lovely business um, that had been created through love and a lot of hard work. And it was something I was extremely passionate about, and I just couldn't. I couldn't go. I just I I just collapsed into tears and could not manage to pull it together. I drove to the place where the business resided, and I could not stop crying. So my business partner acknowledged that I was like, she tried to calm me. It wasn't working. And she acknowledged that clearly I needed a day, needed some time. And so I left and I went to somebody else who I thought would, like I could spill to, and I would be able to like, get work through it, talk
Mhm.
through it. And I was turned away. And I just I remember this day so crystal clear, like you explained. And it was just this series of events, and I don't know how long they played out. I have no idea what the time frame was of it. It seemed like it lasted all day long. And I remember driving away from this friend, uh, her house, and thinking, like, I couldn't believe that this had just happened, because I had literally, voiced like how bad I was, and I was turned away. And I was just like, I don't, okay, there's no help there. I'm going to go back home. And I remember walking through one door of our house and then right out another one to the backyard and just laying on the grass and just laying there flat, stomach down on the grass and thinking, what am I going to do? I can't, I was still crying. The crying had barely let up. And I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to pull it together? Why can't I keep going? I was in true burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a beautiful sunny day. And my kids were coming out and checking on me here and there. And I was like, yeah, just need some time. I just kept thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? How am I going to move forward? Got to pull it together, got to keep strong, got to keep going. And I debated whether or not my husband should drive me to the hospital to like have a mental evaluation. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that I could not pull myself out of it like I usually could if I was down, and that this down was further than I had ever been. And I ended up basically deciding, okay, if you're going to get up, if you're not going to go to the hospital and you're going to try to keep going, then something has to change. You can't keep going the way you have been. I don't know how you're going to do this. I don't know what you're going to change, but something, probably a lot of things, have to be different from here on out because you have nothing left to give. Like, I just felt completely and totally depleted from giving and giving and giving and giving, and just sort of done. And then, yeah, I managed to pull it together and one more time, give it a try and find my way to a healing path. And it was a series of beautiful things that just aligned perfectly, meeting the right people because I was open to it. I knew something had to change. And so now I was open and I could see the opportunities out there. And I feel so blessed that they came right into my pathway. And yeah, it was a life-changing day, a true turning point. So, but yeah. That's so that's
where we'll end off this episode.
Yeah, we'll just end off there. Yeah. So, and our experiences are certainly going to be different and individual to us, and everybody's moment of like something has to change is different.
Everybody's rock bottom looks different.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everyone's looks different. And as ugly as they are, they're also very beautiful because all that's ahead is opportunity at that point.
No, it is like when you get to that point, you're basically like at a crossroads.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh, truly.
It's horrible in the moment when you're experiencing it, but when you get to that point, like looking back now and reflecting, it's like, thank God. Like, thank God I got to that moment.
Absolutely. And honestly, you don't have to go that far.
No.
You don't have to have a rock bottom.
Yeah.
There are crossroads available every single day of your life. If you know something is off, I mean, being honest with yourself and catching it ahead, I don't know what that would be like because that wasn't my path, but I do know it's possible to just know that there's something more out there and to be open to the healing and say, you know what, I want more in life and I'm open to see what there is for me out there. You don't have to wait until it gets really bad. And quite frankly, I would recommend you don't.
I mean, I would recommend that too.
If you're feeling unhappy in life, if
take
you're
a look at it.
Yeah, now. Exhausted, if you're not fulfilled, if you're constantly being taken advantage of, if you have friends that are fair weather friends or friends that you're constantly giving to them, but they're not really giving back.
Mhm.
These are things that you have to evaluate in your
Mhm.
life, or, well, I shouldn't say you have to, you
You should.
should,
Yeah.
and it could prevent you from hitting the extreme low.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. Our next question is, how would you describe how you felt in those early days? Oh my gosh. I mean, have we not covered that?
I think, like, the early days of, like,
The
healing.
early days of healing.
Yeah.
The early days of healing, I felt very confused
Mhm.
and scared. Oh my goodness. What about you?
Yeah, I think I definitely felt confused, but not in a, like, it was a good confused, I guess,
Oh,
like,
there was excitement.
I think, yeah, there was it's weird because there was, like, these 2 parallels running where it was, like, a part of me for the first time felt hope and
Mhm.
felt lighter and,
Mhm.
like, felt things moving, for the first time in my life, like, emotions and stuff moving, and
Mhm.
even though the emotions coming up felt shitty, it also felt good because they were moving and, like, yeah, so I think in the early days, I was definitely I think I was a little, scared
Mhm.
because on one hand, I did feel hope and I was feeling better in some ways, but in other ways, I was crying all the time, and I was like, "Well, I'm kind of tired of crying all the time,
Mm. Yes.
so can we experience something else, please?" Not realizing, obviously, at the time that that was just like I before I was crying all the time just because I was miserable and felt
Mhm.
hopeless and defeated, and but now I was crying because I was releasing all of these emotions that had been pent up for years and years. And
Absolutely.
obviously my partner at the time too was like a little concerned because he was like, "I thought you were doing something that was like good for you and you're a mess." Like this is a mess. So yeah, I think yeah, I definitely I felt a lot of things, but I think I also kind of just like had these blinders on in a way where I was just like, "Nope, this is gonna work." So
Oh, I there
we're
was,
just
yeah.
gonna keep on.
Mhm.
It was a different approach to I'm just gonna keep going. It was like I knew things were changing and I knew things were
Mhm.
shifting. Um, and even though within that there was a lot of like not feeling great, I don't know. Somehow I just knew that it was good and it was for a purpose and that there would be a light at the
Oh,
end of the tunnel.
absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, there was, because resistance comes up. Your
Mhm.
body, your mind is so used to being in one particular operating system,
Mhm.
like, you know, um, and playing into all of the things that you were doing before. So now you're meeting that resistance when you're trying to do something new. And that can be a little bit scary, like at
Mhm.
times, because, like, oh, like, what am I doing? Why am I crying
Mhm.
so much?
Mhm.
Or, um, when you're approaching, depending on the different types of healing you're doing, like some of
Mhm.
those things can be scary. The first time I ever went to plant medicine,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, that was scary.
Mhm.
Like, I was really nervous
Mhm.
and I didn't know what to make of it. This was like a whole new world. And I had no idea where I was and what they were going to do and what it was going
Mhm.
to be like. And
Yeah.
of course I chose ayahuasca, so that was pretty intense. And when
Yeah.
like what ayahuasca is, that something something big's
Something's
probably
gonna
going to
happen.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Oh gosh, yeah, like
yeah, I mean, and I didn't go right into that.
mhm.
That happened, oh gosh, a good, oh, I don't know. I'm thinking it's probably like a couple years in
Mhm.
to the journey.
Gosh, that would have been
But
a good idea. I
that
didn't do
would
that.
have been kind
That
of
was not
wild.
my journey.
Yeah, I had to work up to that
Yeah.
one just a little bit. But like there was definitely fear. Like when I said being scared, like sitting in circle with other
Mm-mm.
women and
Mhm.
having to be vulnerable
Mhm.
and you know, talk about your emotions and
Mhm.
talk about your childhood or
Mhm.
whatever it was that would come up, or that feeling when you go to sit in circle for the first time and you know that it's going to come around your turn and you don't know what you're going to
Yeah.
say
I was
and you're
just gonna
worried
I
about
was
what you're going
totally
to
gonna
say
bring
the
that
whole
up.
time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're sitting in circle and everybody's sharing and you're not listening to what anyone else is saying because you're sitting there almost hyperventilating, being like, what
Mhm.
am I gonna say? What am I gonna say? What am I gonna say? What am I gonna say?
Shit, what
Like
am I going to
that's what your
say when it
brain is doing.
comes? Yeah.
Yeah.
The anxiety of it
Yeah.
all, of
Oh
being
yeah.
vulnerable and it took a good chunk of time for me to get past that.
Oh yeah. Same.
You know,
Same.
I had a lot of experience with moon ceremonies leading up to my breaking point. So, I
Mhm.
mean, there were things that were happening before my
Mhm.
breaking point,
Mhm.
really, um, little
Mhm.
bits
Yeah.
that, again, I'm so grateful for because it was
Mhm.
like they were priming me for
Mhm.
the big transition.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like after once you're doing it consciously, energy healing. You go in, and energy healing is such an interesting experience
Mhm.
because in with some modalities, it doesn't even seem like much of anything's going on. It's like
Mhm.
you something's happening.
Mhm.
Like there's definitely something happening, but at the same time, it's also nothing. Like
Mhm.
they're just sort of waving their
Yeah.
hands over you and touching you in a couple of like little pressure points or
Mhm.
whatever, again depending on the modality.
Mhm.
But then, okay, so the session's over.
Mhm.
Oh, your body feels a little lighter, a little looser, but then all of a sudden maybe you're crying for the
Mhm.
next
Mhm.
24
Mhm.
hours.
Yeah.
Or I had so much energy blockage and emotional blockage that there were times when I was actually like I had the flu
Mm.
like symptoms
Mhm.
for a day or three
Mhm. 3 to 5 days. Yeah.
with my energy healing
Yeah.
experiences. I had a lot that was going on. I mean, I was healing from PTSD,
Mhm.
and it was extreme. It was definitely extreme. So, yeah, I think that definitely some doubt comes in sometimes, like, why am I
Mhm.
doing
Mhm.
this?
Well,
That's in that resistance.
especially when you're like I mean, like, when you're not feeling better, like, when you are going into the, like,
Mhm.
feeling like shit or you're crying or, like yeah, I mean,
Yep.
definitely.
And there's
Or
so many new things, it's overwhelming,
yeah, that too.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I remember kind of very early on actually, like, contacting you at one point,
Oh,
eh,
yeah.
because I was just feeling like and I was feeling so terrible. And I was like, "Well, this like, am I okay?" Like, basically, like, that's kind of like, "Am I okay?
Yeah.
Am I gonna be okay? Is this normal
Yeah.
to, like, feel like shit? Because 'Cause I'm a little worried about myself right now."
Yeah, so just to clarify for those listening, who don't know us at all.
Yeah.
So, I had an amazing mentor and healer that came into my life pretty much immediately, like, right at the time when I have my sort of my
Mhm.
breakdown. And she was just like an absolute angel, and this sets me on a path of doing intensive healing, like immersing myself in it for a couple years. And then I become a healer, which was part of what my path is that I'm supposed to provide healing for other people. So I become a healer, and then Jamie comes
And
along.
then sets in motion my breaking moment.
Yes, and then so I am at this point, I'm Jamie's mentor and
Mhm.
healer. And so yes, when you called me that day, it
Mhm.
was like, it's okay. Yep, nope, this is all normal that you
Mhm.
feel crappy. It's going to pass.
Mhm.
And that's why we're having this
Yeah.
this episode today
Yes.
is, if by chance you've started on the path, and because some people start on it and then they veer off of
Yeah.
it because it does feel too hard, and I
Mhm.
certainly can relate to that, for sure. It's
Mhm.
actually a miracle that I stayed on because it
Oh,
was
same.
really really challenging at times.
Mhm.
um And there were days when I didn't want to.
Oh gosh, yeah. There's so many days.
Yeah, but it does get
Yeah.
better. It gets better.
Yeah.
Every day gets better and it
Mhm.
gets lighter and it's all worth it in
Mhm.
the end. Um, so yeah, like remember when we used to be driving to like a circle and like it'd be like, "Oh, I really don't want to go today." Because your mind
Yeah.
is telling you like you
Well,
don't really want to do this.
yeah.
You don't you want to not go and just go like go to bed or
Yeah.
stay home or you don't really want to be doing this
Yeah.
today because it's so
Oh my god.
against what
I mean,
you're doing.
I feel like I almost don't wanna say this because, like, I don't want anyone to, like, think it's gonna be this way for them at all. It's different for but, I mean, I was like that for a good 2 years.
Yeah, you
I
were.
was.
Yes, you were.
Like, I went to all the things, but didn't want like, it was like
Oh, you'd get
it was yeah,
pissy.
like, it was so bizarre, like, it is truly amazing that I, like, stayed on the course because yeah, I was just a cranky bitch for, like, 2 years because I would go and there was this one part of me that was like, "I love this. This is beautiful. I know like, I love this. I love
Mhm.
it." And then there was this
Absolutely.
other part of me that was just like, "I don't fucking wanna do this."
Yeah, I'm
Like, I'm
exhausted.
exhausted. I
Yep.
don't wanna talk about my feelings. I
Mhm.
don't wanna hear about anyone else's stupid
Feels
feelings.
like
Like,
that's all I
yeah, that's
do.
all we do. Can't we just, like, have some fun, eat some chocolate? I don't know, like, get a drink? Oh, wait, I'm not doing that anymore.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
No, it was a good 2 years.
No, it's
I think my breaking point with that was really that was, when we went to the breathwork thing. Like, oh my
yeah.
god. I'll tell this story super quick. I'm not gonna get
Mhm.
into, like, all the
Mhm.
details of it, but we went to this breathwork,
Yeah, we were
thing.
in 2 totally different vibes
We
that day,
were.
you and I.
We were. And so it was holotropic breathwork. A friend of ours was offering it, and we went. And July and I went. And the way you do this is you're partnered up. And one
We
per
were each other's
and we were each
partners.
other's partner. Yeah. And I don't think anyone saw that coming. And you basically it was like the way it was set up was beautiful. It was like, you basically went on a journey. So the first person would like you laid down and you just breathed for 3 hours. And going into this, we
3
were like 3
hours.
hours? I can't believe I
Yes.
didn't need to pee, let's be honest. Like,
Did you not? No,
no.
you didn't.
No.
I did, huh?
What, really? I don't
One of
remember.
us
We're getting
did.
off topic.
Yeah,
This
go
is not the
ahead.
point. Nobody cares if we had to pee or not.
No, but it is an
I
interesting aspect to the holotropic breath work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I did not need to pee. That's the end of the story. Um, so you're breathing for 3 hours and you basically go on this, like, meditative journey. And I am gonna say that I'm gonna put this little snippet in there. We went into this a little cocky. Like, we were like,
Well,
breath
I
work.
I certainly did because of
Yeah, like
I had been to so many different plant medicine
well,
ceremonies, which are
same.
so
Yeah.
intense, and I was just thinking, I don't really know how breathing I've done
Mhm,
breath work,
mhm.
and I don't really know how breath work is going to
Like, take
like
us on this, like,
a
expansive journey.
journey.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
same, agreed. Um, and so, yeah, so basically the first person lies down, breathes and meditates for 3 hours, and you have your partner who's, like, your spotter, like,
Mhm.
basically looking out for you and, like, if you wanna, like, be disturbed as little as possible, so, like, if you need water, they're supposed to, like, help you take a drink of water because you
Mhm.
also have, like, this
You
little
have to
eye
yeah,
mask
you're
on.
keeping your eyes
You're keeping your
closed,
eyes closed,
really.
so if you needed to go to the bathroom, like, they would lead you to the
Yep.
bathroom and this kind of thing so that you're staying kind of as within yourself as possible for this journey. So we go and do this, and I take my journey first because this is an all-day thing, pretty much, as you could
Mhm.
imagine, like, there's 2 people and we both sit there for 3 hours. First of all, I thought 3 hours was gonna be, like, so long, but it went so fast. But it was like yeah, I got really angry. I went first because I was driving, so I wanted to be, like, partially back in my body and okay to drive at the end of the day.
Mhm.
But yeah, I remember, like, we go to this thing, and
if this thing actually did
yeah,
anything.
clearly we knew it was going to, because we prepared. We were like, well, you better go first because you have to drive. um but yeah, I went to this thing, and I think at that point I was getting sick of my own curiosity too, because like that was a big reason why I kept going to things too. I was just curious, and I was like a sponge, and I just wanted to learn and experience all these things to be like, what will this do? Like, what happens if you press this button? Like, that was
Yeah.
my approach to a lot of these things. And I had a horrible experience, not because the thing was horrible, but it was just like my journey was just like going back into all this grief,
Mm.
and like it just felt really heavy. And I remember the whole time that I was in this, there was like this other little part of me that was just like, this is bullshit. And I wanted to get up and walk out of that room the whole time. Like, I was pissed. And
You were
I
angry.
was so mad. I was so mad that like I was still, but like I stayed in it. Like, it's so
Mhm.
funny. Like, I spent a good 2 years being like that, just being pissed off every time because I was just like, this again?
I know,
And
it's amazing I tolerated you as well as
well, I know, but
you were so you were just a little grump.
was
Yeah, you
I? I
were.
was?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, I am kind of grumpy even now. I have my grumpy moments, let's be honest. It's kind of just part of who I am.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, I don't remember my point in telling that story other than the fact that I wanted to leave everything I went to for a good 2 years. And I'm just going to finish telling the story because I'm
mhm.
in it now. But after our session, we took like a break, and we had to like draw a mandala or color a
Mhm.
mandala. And I was so cranky that I just colored this black circle. The whole thing was black with a tiny, tiny little light in the center of like
Was so
yellow.
great.
And
Do you still have it?
no,
Oh,
I
I
don't
have
think so.
mine.
It would be great if I did, but I think that was a good moment for me though, because I think in a lot of my journey of like, I don't want to be here and I'm cranky about it, I didn't express it. Like, I also
Mhm.
didn't express that side. I thought I had to like keep that to myself. I thought there was something wrong with me.
Mhm.
And so I think in that moment where I colored a black circle with a tiny little bit of light, that was accurate, very accurate to how I was feeling in that moment. And it was the
Mhm.
first time that I just kind of like let myself feel it and let
Mhm.
others around me see it and be like, fuck this shit. There's a little bit of light here because I still believe that there's a light at the end of this tunnel,
Mhm.
but I'm flipping the fucking table at this point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good moment for me. All of that being said.
And we should just go ahead and say for anybody who's not done any type of intensive journey work
Mm-hmm.
with, whether it be through holotropic breathing or through intensive energy healing, or plant medicine, it's not all dark.
No. And
And
mine wasn't
everybody's
either, I should say that.
experiences are unique.
There was just
And,
yeah.
yeah, because it was
Jamie just had a lot of grief.
I was really blessed in the majority of my journeys. I would say 99% of the time I got to experience absolute beauty and light and angelic experiences. And um but you were definitely struggling.
Mhm.
And yeah, it is a thing where when you start into this and you're going, go to an energy healing, you go to a circle, whatever it is that there's going to be very likely some resistance.
Mhm.
I don't want to.
Mhm.
Why am I doing this? Because again, it's new,
Mhm.
and your brain, your ego thinks it's protecting you from
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
the unknown. And our ego is a wonderful, beautiful thing, except for the fact that it goes into hyper overdrive
Yeah.
in its protection mode, and it doesn't understand that going to a healing is not the same as meeting up with a hungry tiger,
Mhm.
a hungry
Mhm.
lion out in the woods and the jungle.
Yeah. You don't have to
um
fight for your life.
yeah,
You're
you
gonna be
don't have to
okay.
fight for your life. You're going to be okay.
I get a kick out of the fact that the next question we have is, did you ever have a moment where you almost gave up and kept going? Or was that the one we just answered?
No, no, no.
Okay,
That's
that is
yeah.
the
You
one.
you you
I
kind
kinda
of
went ahead.
you sidestepped with a
Yeah,
story.
I did, I'm
So,
sorry.
I mean, well, was there a moment where you almost gave up? Like truly? I mean, feeling like a little bit bratty, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go out today. I don't want to
Um,
go do healing. That's one thing. But like giving
I
up,
don't think so. Like, I think there was a lot of moments in my mind where I was just like, "You should," but I don't think there was ever, like, a moment where I almost did. There was a lot of contemplation,
yeah, there was never a
but
moment
I
when I almost
yeah, but
did.
I think that just came from frustration and, like, there was I always knew that, like, I didn't have another choice.
Yeah.
There wasn't another choice for me.
Well, and
There was nothing to go back to.
well, that's what I was just
So
gonna say.
my only choice was to keep moving forward
Yeah, I
and
was.
healing and
Yeah.
yeah.
No, because I mean, I never actually felt like I was going to give up.
No.
But I definitely did have, certainly a few moments when things were really
Mhm.
challenging.
Yeah.
And I would sit there and I would be thinking, this is too hard,
Mhm.
or this is bullshit.
Mhm.
Why is this,
Mhm.
this is just so hard. And in saying that, we have heard that it's not like this for
No.
everyone.
Yeah.
Some people, apparently, it's easy breezy, and I think
Mhm.
that's wonderful and
Mhm.
beautiful.
Well, once again,
This
I
is
think
not the
it
episode for
yeah,
you,
yeah.
probably.
I think it depends on, like it definitely depends on what you're dealing with
But
and,
no,
like
you know what? This is the episode for people that it's like that
yeah.
as well, because having compassion for those that you're around that are healing alongside you,
Mhm.
that's very important in the
Mhm. Oh, for
process.
sure.
Very important. And it's definitely something I think that I have often seen as lacking within the healing
Mhm.
community is having, really knowing that everybody is truly having a different experience
Oh,
than you.
yeah.
And theirs might not be so delightful.
Yeah.
So, just,
Yeah.
offering them a little bit of grace and that is very important.
Mhm.
Um, because we are all in this together for sure. But no, yeah. So I would have those few moments that,
Mhm.
it's too hard
Mhm.
but then you have that, but there's no
Mhm.
going back. Like
Mhm.
I'm not gonna go back to
Yeah,
that.
exactly. I
Ugh,
think I think
yuck.
I think I had some moments where, like, I allowed myself to pretend I was gonna quit. Like, it just, like I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna quit today."
Oh, I had a
Like, I'm not
few.
gonna do anything today.
Yeah, I had a few different healers and shamans tell me like, "Well, you can stop."
Mhm.
Like they'll just look at you like they're calling
Mhm.
calling your bluff basically like, "Well, you could just stop."
Really,
And I'm
I
like,
had the
"As
opposite
if."
where I had, like, people being like, "Well, you can't go back." And I'm like, "Yeah, I fucking know I can't go back." You gotta rub it in my face.
I definitely told you that at
I
one
didn't
point.
realize I was gonna curse so much in this episode. This is
Yeah.
like I'm getting fired up. I apologize. Like, oh my god.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember you used to tell me quite regularly, like, "Man, you piss me off sometimes. I love you, but man, you." I'm like, "Well, are you gonna go backwards? You can't do that. So guess you gotta keep going forward."
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So
Whatever, man. No, I'm just kidding.
what surprised you most about the healing process? Well, I don't know. What surprised you most?
Oh, um, I was trying to think of something funny to say, but I got nothing. What surprised me most about the healing process? I think just in where it takes you,
Mm,
like the journey itself, who you discover,
yeah,
that you are
yeah,
through it. Um, where it takes you, like, physically, your life changing around you, it's not just internal,
yeah,
but, your outside world shifts too, I think, um,
yeah. I would agree.
yeah, just the journey in general, I guess, would be I think it's always full of surprises, and I think that's part of the beauty, really,
Hmm.
because, yeah, it's just
I was thinking about it this morning a little bit in preparation for this episode, and I was thinking, like, if you had told me in the beginning that I would some of the simplest things that I do, and I know this one you'll know exactly what I mean on this one. Like, for example, that I absolutely love eating mushrooms. I know that's such a
Mm.
strange thing, but, like, this actually
Mhm.
happened during my healing
Mhm.
journey. You're suddenly open to new things that I would be, let alone that I would be eating so many, but I'm partaking in growing them with
Mhm.
you. Like,
Mhm.
we're actually starting a mushroom garden.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's
I
well,
would
same. It's weird
never.
that we both had such a well, you were straight up allergic to mushrooms, weren't you?
Yes.
I just, like, straight up had an aversion to them, like, I would not eat them.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
And
No.
obviously I eat them and I'm, like, obsessed with them
It's
now.
it's very interesting that,
Mhm.
that I would lead women's circles. I
Mm.
never would have, in a million years,
Mhm.
if you had told me that, you know, back before that breaking point, I would have been like,
Mhm.
"What? No." That I would become an energy healer.
Mhm.
I never would have believed that.
Mhm. Well,
It,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's so many things that I would
Yeah.
just be super relaxed about life, that
Mhm.
anxiety wouldn't be a bother for me
Mhm.
anymore. It would just be the normal human emotion that it
Mhm.
is, not the
Mhm.
hyperactive one that I was
Right.
experiencing. Um, just I could go on and
Mhm.
on, because the journey, it unveils so much and you learn so much about yourself. Well, you uncover.
Mhm.
It's like you're excavating.
Mhm.
Actually, I'm reading a book right now, which
About excavation.
well, it actually covers, like, the excavating of self. Like, it
Okay.
goes a lot
Nice.
into archaeology,
Cool.
references in
Mhm.
relation to your journey of healing.
Mhm.
And it's so true. It's so spot on, because you're unearthing, like, layer after layer of, oh, I like that. Oh,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
this type of person. Oh, these are my beliefs. Oh,
Mhm.
um this is something I'm passionate about, and it's so cool.
Mhm.
It's awesome.
Mhm.
It's just, it's like uncovering more and more beauty,
Mhm.
and finding, your soul,
Mhm.
the core of who you were always meant to be,
Yeah.
and feeling so at ease with that person, and
Mhm.
growing more and more at ease with that person. And and the journey just continues, and you discover more and more every passing week, month, year. It does slow down a little
Mhm.
as you
Oh,
get
for
as
sure.
far along
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
I've come at this point,
Yeah.
but the journey will never end. And
Mhm.
I think, and there was a part, if you had told me that in the beginning, which, I mean, maybe I should, this is, more so aimed towards people that are in the beginning of their healing. But
Yeah.
if you had told me that in the beginning, that the journey never ends, oh my gosh, that might have been a little too much.
Mhm.
But it doesn't ever end. And it's actually beautiful. And you're going to be so happy about
Mhm.
that.
It doesn't ever end, but it's constantly
It's
changing. I think that's one of the
constantly.
biggest things that I really learned within the healing journey because you know, I think before when you're stuck in that well, you're stuck in that mundane, you're stuck in that whatever you're stuck in,
Mhm.
you feel like your life isn't changing.
Mhm.
But when I think that's kind of one of the things within healing and why I kept going too, because I started to realize how quickly things change, right? It's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, this sucks right now, and this whatever I'm dealing with right now, this sucks and it's unpleasant." But if I actually sit with it and feel it and move through it, it's gonna change.
Yep.
It's gonna change so fast,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah. No, and I mean, I've had little glitches that have been, challenging here
Mhm.
and there as I've moved further through the
Mhm.
process, but for the most part, I would say it becomes smoother. It
Mhm.
becomes easier, because you learn the rhythm of
Mhm.
healing, and you know that with every little sort of, we'll say, hiccup, that, where you hit a little rough
Mhm.
patch, that on the other side of that is such freedom
Mhm.
and indescribable beauty
Mhm.
and opportunity
Mhm.
ahead. So, yeah, I would say that's the thing that has surprised me the most, is that, like, how much I love the healing process
Mhm.
now. And um where, in the beginning it was like, this is what I have to do because I know
Mm.
this is what I have
Mhm.
to do,
Mhm.
because I, in many ways, still almost in a survival state of, well, I can't
Mhm.
continue
Mhm.
to survive where I was, so I got to keep do this to survive.
Mhm.
But you work your way out of that survival mode, and you
Mhm.
start to say, this is life, this is
Yeah.
living, this is beautiful, this
Well,
is
it's
what
also
evolving
well, yeah,
is.
I was just gonna say it's also this like expansion, right? It's
Mhm.
like when you yeah, in the beginning it depending on your journey and your story, it's like it can be very much about surviving. And
Absolutely.
then, it gets to this point. I know for me now, it's like when I have hiccups or things that I'm stuck on or struggling with, it's like it's kind of now more so this like motivation to expand.
Mhm.
I don't want to feel like I'm like stuck in a box or stuck behind something. Like, no, expansion feels too good.
Well, it's, yeah, and it's this
And I,
beautiful of what's
well,
next.
exactly.
What's
And it's like,
next?
I'm also like accepting too that it's like, I'm also human. I'm
Mhm.
going to get stuck on things. That's just part of being human.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And allowing that time for it, and
Mhm.
offering yourself the compassion, the patience, the grace. I mean, you grow so
Mhm.
much in patience.
You do. I'm still
Yes.
like I'm still that, bratty little kid sometimes that,
Mhm.
was coming up, but she's a lot calmer now. She is.
She is,
She
for
is.
sure. For
She
sure.
still comes up. It's just I
Yeah.
think I've just accepted the fact that that's who she is,
Yeah.
but she's a little calmer.
Yes. I would
She's
definitely
not like
agree.
laying on the floor kicking and screaming, throwing a temper tantrum anymore. Now she just kind of like crosses her arms and is like, "Oh,
Stomps her foot once.
yeah."
Yeah. Hmm.
Just kind of like, I'm still here and I'm still sassy, but I'm not going to embarrass you like I used to. It's fine."
Oh gosh, it makes me think of one of your ayahuasca journeys. I'm
Oh
sorry.
God, you'll have to tell me about this after. Which one? Which one was I throwing a temper tantrum in?
Oh goodness.
Goodness.
Oh yeah. What are one or two practices or tools that have helped us to stay grounded, and or helped us to stay grounded in the beginning? um, gosh.
I mean, I think for me, I'm always going to go back to nature. I think that was like the only thing in the beginning when I had no idea what I was doing
Mhm.
and I was just starting to learn. I had no idea what meditation was. I had no idea like
Yeah.
I what, that was the thing from day 1 because I remember like that and journaling. Like
Mhm.
because and start okay, sorry, there's 3 things. And starting to create routine for myself. Like cuz I remember I'm pretty sure it was like the first after my first energy session with you. You told me to spend more time in nature, and honestly, at that point, as dumb as it sounds, I didn't even know what that meant. Like, I was just like, "Spend more time in nature?" Like, what does that mean? Like, it's pretty bad when you're that, disconnected that you're like, What? How do I do that?"
Which
Just go outside.
is so much proves the point of so much of what we have talked about
Yeah.
today, which is like, you were like, what? And here you are, like, the ultimate nature lover. Like,
Mhm.
you love being outside.
Mhm.
You're, I mean, really into the trees and
Mhm.
learning about them, and you can tell me what all the trees are, and you knew
Mhm.
none of that
Mhm. Yeah.
before. I mean, how freaking cool is that?
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
you know what the trees, the different medicine they provide.
Mhm.
I mean, that's awesome. You
Mhm.
sometimes you'll tell me spiritual
Mhm.
aspects to them, and you had none of that.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, it's so true, and I remember, like, in the early days, like, since I didn't know what you meant, I just started going for walks because, like, "Duh, okay."
Mhm.
I just started going for walks, and I remember even going on walks so often just being like, "What am I doing out here? Like, what's this doing?"
Mhm.
But and I remember I started going to like the beach that I lived nearby like early in the morning, and sometimes I would bring my journal and other times I wouldn't, and I would just sit there. And I think so that was like really, I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't
Mm.
understand what nature was doing, but I knew that like just being in nature, and I felt calmer. Like,
Mhm.
even with everything that was going on, and all the new things I was learning, and when I felt shitty or I was having, crying days or whatever, I just knew that spending the time in nature was somehow just making me feel more connected to myself, more present in the moment, and just calmer. And then, yeah, journaling was a big one too, obviously, like so big for
Oh,
grounding.
yeah. No, and mine would be the same, the journaling. I do think that for me, one of the things, besides journaling and nature, um, breath.
Mm.
Breath was very big,
Mhm.
and as well as my diet. Like,
Mm.
you know, because within all the things I was dealing with before the conscious healing began, I definitely had control issues,
Mhm.
which is totally part of the package when you're dealing with the what I was dealing with.
Mhm.
Um, and that was a place for me to like focus the control. Oh,
Right.
I can control what I eat and I can control how I make it and what I'm
Mm.
putting into my body and how I'm treating this, coming to terms with that my body was a temple and that
Mhm.
I'm nourishing it. And that was huge in the early
Oh,
days of
yeah.
keeping me sort of in a grounded state.
Yeah.
So combined with the nature and journaling and yeah.
Yeah. No, it's funny how that is a big one too, and I guess I forgot to kinda mention that when I said about creating routine for myself. I mean, that was one of the first things I did, was start eating breakfast every morning, like a
Mm.
healthy breakfast. And it's very interesting. Like, I think the journey with diet has been very interesting, with the journey
Oh
with
yeah.
healing and how connected it is
Yeah.
to your body, to how
Hmm.
you feel. I mean, it 100% makes sense, but yeah, no, that was definitely a thing for me too.
Well, and in the spirit of this offering, advice to others who might be new into
Mhm.
this, uh, baths as well.
Mhm.
Epsom salt baths was a big thing for me
Mhm.
back in those early days. It really helped me tremendously to just the same, calm that I
Mhm.
would feel, and swimming
Mhm.
too
Mhm.
had the same effect of that nature
Mhm.
connection, connecting with water.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
And little pro tip for anyone out there who might be seeing an energy healer or getting energy work done, if they tell you to take a bath, take one.
yeah, we both learned that one the hard
Yeah.
way, I think.
Just do it.
Yep. Yep. Definitely listen to your energy healer's advice for aftercare.
Yeah.
Don't brush it off. Like if they're telling you to
Mhm.
drink more water. Really commit to that because there's a reason. There's something they've
Yeah.
picked up on. If they're telling you to take a bath, you really need to do that. I'm trying to think. There was another thing that just crossed my mind that sometimes comes up, but oh my gosh, it went right through
Wow.
the
All right.
breath work, the baths, the um I was just going to say breathing again. Breathing must be really
Breathing. Just
no, I said water. Breathing.
water, breathing,
Yeah,
breathing.
breath work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Mhm.
After my first energy healing, um my healer, when I first sat up on the table, she said, "Do you even know how to breathe? Like, have you ever done that?"
You've actually taken a breath before?
So,
Yeah.
and that was a real turning point for me. Like, what do you
Mm.
mean? So, yeah. So some practical tips. I mean, do you have anything else you want to say before we kind of start to
Oh,
wrap it up?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think we covered a good amount here. I mean, I could tell another story. No,
We
I'm
could
just
tell
I'm just
so
kidding.
many stories. And I will say like I've said this already, but
Mm.
everyone's journey is so different and so unique. So you have heard us talk about holotropic breathing. You've heard us talk about plant medicine, especially some pretty intense plant medicine like ayahuasca. does not mean that you have to do those
No.
things on your healing journey. First of
Yeah.
all, you may not have access
Yeah.
to those things. And just because you don't have access to those things, absolutely in no way does that
No.
impact your
No.
ability to be able to get through this process.
Absolutely. No. I was just thinking too, as you said that, and you're like, "Do you have anything else to add?" I was thinking about how, some of the things I did in my own healing journey, like, were like going and learning energy healing.
Mhm.
And I was just thinking about reflecting on that really quickly and how that was part of like that was like a more fun and playful side that was like me learning because I remember when we went and we trained learned Reiki.
Mhm.
And those were like really cool moments for me in my healing journey that were kind of were more beautiful and more on the lighter side of things. So I think it's important too to like explore
Explore.
various things because for me in doing things like that, I learned, how to kind of tap into my intuition and what that was and learned that I had power like in that,
Mhm.
you start feeling energy and then you start to understand it more if if that's what you're doing
Yeah. And
is
maybe your thing might be that you are really drawn to plants and you want
yeah.
to go
Yeah.
check out some herbalism stuff,
Absolutely.
or or maybe your healing does come from like the trees, like
Mhm.
like it could be
Mhm.
any number of things. I think the biggest thing I would encourage is to not limit yourself to just one specific
Mm.
modality of healing if you can. Like
Yeah, like
just to explore a
be
little bit.
just be curious.
Yeah,
Like that's what
yep,
I'm such a
because that's how you
be
find what
curious
really
person.
works for you.
Mhm.
And that's where you start to find some breakthroughs, because
Mhm.
even though you might be doing absolutely fantastic with the healer you're working with, and they offer multiple modalities, so you're having different things being worked on with you, you might greatly benefit from taking a yoga class
Mm.
or
Mhm.
a breath work class of some
Mhm.
kind, or going and sitting in a cacao ceremony. You just never know what's going to open up what doors for
Mhm.
you and what's going to peel back the next layer.
Mhm.
And so, um, I think, yeah, curiosity is absolute key
Mhm.
in the healing process, and patience with yourself. I can't stress that one enough. Like, this is not a race.
Mhm.
This, you have to have
It's not a
patience.
sprint, it's a marathon.
It is a marathon, except it's not a marathon where you're running and it's
Yeah.
exhausting, and it's a nice leisurely walk. That's how it should feel.
Yeah.
And you're not competing with anyone. You don't, just you and a friend may sort of have gotten into this together. If you're, I mean, that's a real blessing if you have a
Mhm.
friend by your side to do this with you. Um, but you may move at different paces, and that's okay.
Mhm.
That's completely natural and the way it's supposed to be, because we have lived different lives. We have come from different places. We have different brains that work in different ways with different blocks within them. We've experienced different traumas. And so it's absolutely essential to offer yourself the compassion of patience
Mhm.
in this journey. Trying to rush yourself. And, while we're saying try different things, also don't take in so much that you're exhausting
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
Don't feel like you have to show up for every single thing that's going
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
It's okay to take days to just rest too.
Mhm.
And absolutely essential in the integration process to reflect.
Mhm.
Integration is taking all the things that you're learning, all the things you're realizing about yourself, and putting them into action. But you can't do that without pausing
Mhm.
first and reflecting. That's the first step in the integration process. So that I would say that, and then we have some practical tips here. Just saying that healing starts messy, uncomfortable, and uncertain, but it is absolutely worth it, which we've I think we've really pressed in this, and I think we've our stories have hopefully
Mhm.
given you the insight into that it is worth it. If you're just starting out, do not give up. You got this. And there's no right way to start. Every step matters, even the tiniest little step. Because it's like that story with like when the tractor is going through the field and it's in the ruts, right? And it just stays in those ruts in the field. And then if you just crank the steering wheel so much as a centimeter, it goes completely off those ruts and it starts a new path. So it's those little tiny things like getting up and starting a new routine, drinking more water, taking better care of yourself, um, going for a daily walk, starting to
Mm-hmm.
a little gratitude journal. Those little baby steps, they amount to a whole heck of a lot in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So don't dismiss the work you've already been doing if you're early on in this,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very important work. You won't always feel the way that you feel right now. Change is guaranteed was another one in a note in our tips, and that is, we stand by that. It You cannot do this work and not come out on the other end with
Mm-hmm.
some change in your life. I cannot see a possibility of that. Yes, some modalities might not speak to you. Some experiences might not be your vibe, and that's totally cool. But in the end, you will feel better if you keep exploring and stay curious. And you don't have to do it alone. Support makes a world of difference. So if you don't have people in your life who are on the healing journey, know that the healing communities are very open and loving, and you can find new connections within them. Reach out to people, try to make friends. If that is, stepping a little too far out of your comfort zone in the early days, there are masses of online groups that are healing,
Like us.
like us. Yeah. And, know that you do have support in this. You absolutely are not alone. It's out there. So reach out, and, tune in to others that are healing. Um, so in closing, I'll just say that wherever you are on your journey, remember that it's okay. We've been there too, and we hope our stories remind you that you're capable of incredible growth. Even if you can't see it yet, just keep taking those small, brave steps. Keep showing up for yourself and keep being curious. Okay? We'd love to hear where you're at right now in your journey. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating, pretty please, and share your thoughts in the comments. This helps us to grow and be able to show up and offer even more. And remember, sharing is caring. So please share this episode with someone who might resonate with this message. I think today was a really important one personally. Like, I think that, hearing other people's stories can really make a change
Mm-hmm.
in your life. I know that's how I really started my journey, was reading a book
Mm-hmm.
that was someone else's story, and it changed my life completely. So, yeah, share this with anybody you think might benefit from it, please. And follow us on social media at Unraveling This Life. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, and that way you can connect with us more. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unraveling with July and Jamie. And until next time, we love you, we believe in you, and remember, be kind.